Welcome back to OpenLine, talking about the Tennessee General Assembly. We have with us Tennessean reporter, state and government reporter, Joel Ebert, who covers that for the Tennessean. Several calls. Let's go back to the phones. Let's go to Jay. Hello, Jay.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Hi.
I had a question about some laws or whatever, and I was just curious. I was talking to my state rep about the HOV lanes. There was talk, they may do away with that, and also term limits. And are they any new laws about term limits for our reps? And also, there was something else I was going to say, but I done forgot now. But anyway, I was just curious about that, and I'll hang up with some things.
So HOV and term limits. What have you heard?
On those two issues, I haven't heard much. Term limits has not come up thus far in the session. I would guess that it's not going to come up at all because the filing deadline is already passed. So that's an interesting issue, though, because the lawmakers essentially agreed to be a part of a I think it's an Article 5 constitutional convention, and part of that is to encourage Congress to not only have a balanced budget, but also to have term limits for members of Congress. So they essentially are agreeing to push forward federal term limits, but not necessarily state term limits. As far as the HOV stuff, I haven't seen anything on that. There is an effort from a couple of local lawmakers here in Nashville to use the shoulder on highways as a bus lane just to alleviate some of traffic concerns, but I haven't seen anything on HOVs.
Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you, Jay, for that call. Let's go to David. Hello, David.
Howdy.
Hi. What's on your mind?
Two things. First, I'll give your viewers a freebie.
All right. Great.
If you want to be the father of a new nation and don't want to take ED pills, eat three things. Watermelon rind, celery, and peanuts.
Well, now, I don't know what that means. All right, so he's talking about, he's going off this bill here, which leads to often some jokes and that kind of thing. When is this bill kind of the erectile dysfunction bill? Is that one getting this just all kinds of attention as far as just the humor that's going on out there?
I think that's basically it. I think it's largely a thing that's just sort of to grab the headlines to get people interested, but it's not really something that I would anticipate a whole lot of lawmakers really pushing forward as a top initiative. That's
not going to be something that's going to come forward.
I wouldn't think so.
All right, college overhaul. So the governor is doing some things. What's going on there?
Yeah, so the governor essentially has what is called the Focus Act, is one of many things that he's trying to do in terms of higher education, but essentially he wants to break apart and have local boards. So essentially the major colleges in the state would have their own board of regents, essentially. That way he believes they can make more local decisions. They can say, hey, this is a very important issue that we're facing as one school and that another school may not be facing. So it allows them the freedom to do that. That issue did receive some pushback from Chancellor John Morgan, who criticized it and actually resigned because of that initiative. Morgan was talking about the Focus Act when it was in committee this week, but that ended up being passed by the legislature, so it looks like the governor's initiative will be gaining momentum.
So Morgan resigned over it.
Yeah.
He was so opposed to it that he resigned. He said it's an issue that's been talked about before,
right,
but we just haven't done it.
Right.
And from his point of view, why is it such a bad idea?
I think it's just something that it's an uncertainty. People believe that it's something that would create havoc. It's unnecessary, I think, is his main points. That essentially this is something that Haslam really thinks is an important effort and initiative, but among educators, they're still kind of not sold on the idea.
A bill to reduce drug punishments. What's the situation with that?
So that's an interesting one. Initially, that bill was put forward by some Democrats who said, you know what, we need to look at some of our criminal justice reform efforts and reduce the sentencing for simple possession, which is something like if somebody is caught with a small amount of marijuana and they're not going to actually distribute or resell the product, they're normally convicted of a felony if it's multiple offenses. This effort, which has been adopted by Bill Lamberth, who is a Republican, he threw this into another bill that would actually increase I guess basically what would happen if you are convicted of multiple DUIs and also carjacking. So this has been a larger effort to really change the criminal justice system. They believe that this will really significantly reduce, the process and the logjam that we have in the state's prison system. And it seems to be gaining momentum. It was approved in a House committee today. The Senate has also been taking it up. So I think it might have a chance of passing this year.
This is one of those major issues. We talk about how the United States incarcerates more people than any other country. Drug sentences are a major reason why.
Right.
It's tough in this climate that we've had for so long where we've got to be tough on crime, and certainly lawmakers want to be tough on crime. It's tough to roll some of that back. But do you think that's actually happening?
I think it's happening slowly. I mean, I don't think they're doing it a wholesale change. I think there are some individual initiatives to actually make that happen. And I think this is a key one because it's got something, again, it initially came from Democrats, but they've tried to mold their issues and have Republicans adopt them, and some of those have worked, some of them haven't. And so I think, yeah, this certainly does have a chance of passing and becoming law.
All right. Bob. Hello, Bob.
Yes.
Go right ahead.
Yes. On the Channel 5 news report this afternoon, they said something about the state legislature had passed or was fixing to pass something about the pain medication that your doctors give you. And if you go to the drugstore, they give a different pill. Now they will keep you from getting that pain medication or something.
Okay. Do you know about that?
I don't know that particular one. I know today that the Senate did vote in favor of a bill that would essentially allow pharmacists to prescribe opioid antagonists, which are essentially drugs like naloxone. If they suspect somebody or a family member may be in danger of ODing, then essentially a pharmacist can write a prescription to give them access to that drug. But I'm not familiar with that particular issue you're talking about today, sir.
A few years ago, there was a big crackdown on pain clinics. Mm-hmm. They had to register, that kind of thing. I haven't seen anything on that recently, but I will look into that. Thank you for that question, Bob. Let's see some of the other big issues that are out there healthcare-wise. Of course, Insure Tennessee, that's one of the big things that keeps coming up. We've had people on this show. They say we're gonna try and pass this again. I don't know how hopeful they were. Where do you think it stands?
I think right now it's dead in the water. I think that's something that you have Republican leadership in the House, the Senate, and the governor essentially saying we need to wait until the presidential election results come in to find out what's going to happen. Lieutenant Governor Ramsey has been explicit about that. He says that essentially, if a Democrat comes in, then we're going to have to work with the law now. But if a Republican comes in, then there's going to probably be an effort to repeal the Affordable Care Act. So why would the state really jump on board when we're a matter of months away from seeing what happens?
What other issues are being impacted by the Republican race? I mean, that's actually very interesting, and that has a major impact on people's lives in Tennessee. But are there? Obviously, everyone up there is very focused on that election. What are you hearing? I mean, is Lieutenant Governor Ramsey saying how he would vote? Is he supporting anybody? And kind of what are you hearing up there?
We've talked to him specifically about whether he's endorsing somebody. He has not said. He voted, I guess, already. He was part of the early voting, and we talked about the idea of Trump being the nominee. If it's possible that he wins all across the country and he becomes the eventual nominee, Lieutenant Governor Ramsey admitted that he would back him up. It doesn't seem like it's his ideal candidate, but he didn't explicitly say who he's supporting. I think the idea is ultimately they want to support a Republican, and that they don't want either Sanders or Clinton to win.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I wasn't sure if Ted Cruz would be his guy, but he hasn't said.
He hasn't said, no. And so far we haven't heard an endorsement out of Governor Haslam either.
No, Governor Haslam, yeah, he's been waiting.
Yeah.
Some lawmakers, have individual lawmakers stepped forward?
Yeah, there have been some people. I mean, we've got some that have been delegates for specific candidates, but there hasn't been a really mass effort. There's been a good amount that have endorsed Ted Cruz. There are very few that I've talked to that are behind the Trump effort.
Okay, let's go to Lucy. It's always great to hear from Lucy. Hello, Lucy.
Hey, y'all. I've got a couple of issues I want to talk about. One of which is very important to me is, the Mr. Ed bill, or what I call the stud bill. And the other thing is what the gentleman was just talking about, one of the bills before the legislature is where some rep wants to combine multiple DUIs and, multiple DUIs and minor marijuana offenses with carjacking. Multiple carjacking.
Okay.
Okay, can you break out the multiple carjacking and define that for me a little bit more? Because here's how I just heard that. I just heard that, minor amounts of marijuana and multiple DUIs are not something you should really be putting a slammer for in a long time. And they're just the same as multiple carjackings. That's how I heard it. And if that is correct, how I heard it, I have an issue with somebody not going to prison for multiple carjackings, let alone one. When somebody puts a gun in your face and tells you to get out of your car, and that property, that automobile is registered to you, and they take it out and perpetrate crimes or property damage, you are liable for that if it's stolen or not, because your name's on that piece of property. That's a liability right there. So is that what they're saying, is to put multiple carjackings with that? And then I want to make a comment about the other.
All right, good. Well, hold on. Let's talk about that.
So the multiple carjacking and the DUI is actually to increase the penalty for it. Right now, essentially, what is going on is if you got your 17th DUI, it would essentially be the same punishment as if it was like your third DUI. And so I think the effort is to really say that's really, it doesn't make sense to do that. So they want to increase the penalties for people that have been convicted of carjacking and DUIs multiple times. And that's not the same penalty as the simple possession. That's to reduce the penalty for simple possession while also increasing the carjacking and DUI penalties.
Does that answer your question, Lucy?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm glad I didn't go to bed thinking what I was thinking. Okay,
yeah, good.
My other thing is on what I call the Mr. Ed bill. And y'all might think that that's a joke, but I don't think it's a joke about regulating erectile dysfunction, because I sat there and watched the state legislature, who she was with the other the two legislatures, I think a week or two ago, discussing, regulating abortion, and
right.
The GOP lady was talking about that, they're regulating abortion because they're trying to make people responsible for their behavior. And I guess I took that as we need to keep our legs shut as women, and it's all our fault that we're getting pregnant. So, and they're bringing up morality and stuff about getting pregnant and stuff. So I have an issue with a married man that, and I have friends, they say that, they go to the doctor and some of them are on Medicare and they're handing out Viagra like candy to them. And, there's been proof that a lot of these senior citizens that are getting Viagra like that are going after these street prostitutes, and it's the AIDS has increased in that age group,
Really?
The cases of AIDS. But if you're married, then let's apply that to you being married. Your wife should know. Your wife should know. Your husband knows. If you had your tubes tied, you have to get his permission. And I've talked to women who didn't even know that their husbands had a vasectomy that were absolutely outraged. So, I think...
So you don't think that bill is a joke? You think it's
I think there's some seriousness to this.
Right.
We're so big on guns in the state of Tennessee. I've lived in places that you didn't have to have a carry permit. You just had to register that gun. So let's just start registering your little man, your little gun. This is for shooting and this is for fun.
All right, well, Lucy, all right, I guess we have to take a break. But certainly the bill that came up earlier this year had to do with an ultrasound, requiring an ultrasound when someone gets an abortion, a woman gets an abortion. That was withdrawn. There's Lucy. She thinks not too far different.
Well, and I think, to Lucy's point, the effort behind the bill was largely raised out of health concerns. That's what Sherry Jones and Sarah Kyle were saying in their explanation of the bill. And so they're saying, yeah, this is a legitimate health concern. I think a lot of ways people have interpreted it has been this is sort of a retribution effort. But, again, you can interpret it your own way. But, yeah, there are clearly health concerns about the prevalence of Viagra.
All right, we're going to take a break. If you want to call, there's the number, 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-7587. Take a break. Be back right after this.